Hello, everyone. My name is Harini Krishnan, and I go to Folsom High School. Welcome to Know Your Charity, a talk show series that I'm honored to be hosting in 2021. The intent of this series is to bring representatives or leaders of various nonprofit, charitable, and voluntary organizations in the Greater Sacramento Area. I'm hoping through this series we get to hear the great humanitarian work that these people and their organizations do for in the community. This will serve as an inspiration for students and their families to help out in the community, especially during the pandemic. Today, I have a representative from St. John's. Karen Edwards is married with 2 adult sons. She worked in homeless outreach for 10 years prior to coming to St. John's. She has been the community engagement manager for 2 years. She manages all volunteers, reaches out to the community groups, churches, and events to advocate for St. John's. She loves to hike, travel, and read. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it, and we're so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to share with you, and what a great service you're providing for the students at Folsom. So I'm ready to go.
Thank you. First question is, what is St. John's?
So St. John's started in 1985 as an emergency homeless shelter for women and children. And it evolved to where it is today, no longer called a shelter. We call ourselves St. John's Program for Real Change, because we want to do more than just put a Band-Aid on the homeless situation. We also know that change does not happen in 30 days, which is the typical stay at an emergency shelter. And so over all of these years, we've evolved into a 12 to 18 month program where the women come and live on our campus with their children and work on the issues that led to their homelessness. And also we give them job training as well. We can serve up to 270 women and children a day for up to 18 months.
That's awesome. So do you primarily work with women and children, correct?
Yes, the women and children are the most vulnerable homeless on the streets. A lot of shelters and services go to adults, and there's a lot of things out there for singles, men or women, but there's not much there for women who have children. We also have women who have no children. It's not a prerequisite. You don't have to have children to be part of St. John's.
What is St. John's vision or mission?
So really, our vision is to end homelessness one family at a time. And we do that by helping them, again, break down those barriers, the obstacles that prevented them from having a good job to begin with, and make them employable and help them to become independent and self-sustaining.
Okay, yeah, that's amazing. We all wanted to hope that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of services do you provide for these women and children?
So basically, we want to contribute to their overall health and their well-being. And so we have wraparound services that include counseling services for those. Many of our women come from domestic violence, and so they need counseling for that, as do their children. We also have drug and alcohol counseling, because a large percentage of our women come to us struggling with addiction. We have case managers that they meet with weekly to manage where they are in their care and if they're doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. We also provide on-the-job training. We have 2 social enterprises, Plates Cafe and Catering, and First Steps Childcare, where the women do work for 400 hours to gain job training. Now, this job training doesn't necessarily mean that that's the work that they're going to go into, because much of what we teach them and work with them are those soft skills of work, like learning to have self-confidence, good communication skills, looking someone in the eye when you talk to them. Also, how to get along with the people that you work with, how to respect your employer, all of these things that are like soft skills. But then we also want them to learn organizational skills and time management skills and how to balance work and family, because they're going to have to do all of that once they leave St. John's.
That's amazing how much you guys are able to help them. What part of the community do you guys focus on mostly?
Well, many of them come in living on government subsidy. And when they leave, 96% of our women have jobs where they're making at least $14.50 an hour, which is significant to what they were bringing in before. It's not a lot of money. I mean, that's still, they're still going to struggle and need help with housing and that sort of thing. But that's the community that we work with, the community that, for mothers that are solely responsible for their children, if it comes down to watching their kids versus getting a job, we have to help bridge all of those gaps. So it's a very crucial part of the community that we work with.
Of course, yeah. So as an organization standpoint, how does St. John's work? Do you have employees or is it mostly voluntary based?
Yeah, so we are a quite large organization, well, larger than you think. We have 88 employees across several campuses, and we can't do all of the work. When you're taking care of 270 women and children, you need a lot of people. And so we have a base of about 1,400 volunteers. Now, that said, they are not all active. Prior to COVID, we had about 400 volunteers a month coming to our campus, and averaging between 2 and 4 hours each. So you can do the math and see that much of what we accomplished on our campus was with the help of volunteers. That's been one of the hardest things during COVID, is to have to, and we've done it twice. We've opened and closed our campus twice. And we're getting ready to hopefully open a soft opening again, maybe sometime in February. But the volunteers, while the employees do the things like raise the money and take care of children and case manage and take care of finances and take care of our buildings and grounds, our volunteers come in and support all of those things. So we have office volunteers that do so much. We don't have administrative assistants. We use volunteers for much of that. We also use volunteers to help in the overflow of childcare. We use volunteers to help prepare and serve lunch and dinner 7 days a week, year round, once we reopen. And we also have volunteers that help us process the hundreds and hundreds of donations that we receive, and then special projects that come up along the way as well. We also use volunteers to help in our special events. We have 2 major special events a year. Again, we had to do one virtual in the fall. So we're just learning how to do things differently until things get back to a new normal.
Of course, yeah. So do these volunteers need any training, and can anybody come volunteer?
So let me address who can volunteer first of all. Anyone 14 and older can come and volunteer without a parent present. So that means high school students are welcome to come and volunteer. We go down to age 10, so 10 to 13 can volunteer if they're volunteering with a parent. We run 2 volunteer orientations a month that we ask people to sign up and come to. The volunteer orientation gives everyone sort of an overview, like I've just done here with you, of what St. John's does in the community, the services we provide, how volunteers can help. And then we give them a tour of our campus so that they can see the different buildings and places where they will do their volunteer work. And then those that are 18 and older have to have a live scan fingerprinting, because we have minors on our campus. We require that for anyone over 18. It's a mandatory thing that we have to do. But high school students that are under 18, that's not a requirement. far as training, so we aren't going to just have you come your first day and send you to your spot and say, okay, good luck, do what you can. We do orientations, short little orientations. For instance, those that go and help in childcare, they're going to give them an overview, show them around the childcare center. Here's what we do. This is the protocol for this, and obviously give you a good idea of what you're doing. Same with any other place. If you're working in the kitchen, you come in, you wash your hands, you put on your hairnet. These are the things that we're going to chop today. These are the things that need getting ready to be baked. Here's how we get ready to serve. Here's how we serve. So all of those things step by step in the first couple of times that someone comes. But the main orientation just gives the overview, and then depending on where they volunteer. And I also will say that I love to have volunteers try out different places. Not every volunteer spot is for everybody, and I like volunteers to try something and maybe they'll think, that's not really for me. I'd rather try something else. Until I want them to find a place that they're going to love. And I'll tell you another thing about high school volunteers while we're talking about volunteers. I love high school volunteers. In an earlier life, in other words, right out of college, I was a high school teacher. So I have a very deep love for high school students in my heart. And I really think it's wonderful that high school students volunteer and they learn that life is not all about you or revolves around you. Yeah. I also like to see students come and interact with folks that are very different from them economically, culturally, all of those things that we take for granted, and women and children that live below the poverty line, that have nothing. And it just helps you appreciate what you do have, but it also gives you an empathy and a kindness and a compassion towards our fellow humans. And I think that's a really important thing for high school students to learn. And I've not had one student come and say, I hate doing this. This is so boring. It's usually, when can I come back? So yeah. That's a good thing.
I can definitely vouch for that. I don't like the happiness it brings them. Many times I've done it. It's just amazing feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally have done one of your computer training things that you do for the women. Right. Could you explain a little bit more about that? Because I think a lot of the high schoolers that are watching might be interested.
Yeah. So we call it Grow with Tech Lab. Many of the women who come, and I want to say a large percentage of them, they all have smartphones and they do their email and, texting and all of that. But most of them have never touched a computer keyboard, let alone know how to type. So especially your generation started learning to type in elementary school. And so think about an adult woman who's never typed before and now has to go back and learn the basics. So that's where we start with the basics. And then they learn Word, they learn Excel, they learn Google Docs. And again, this is part of their job training because a lot of jobs require computer skills. And the more skills that they have, the more employable that they will become as well. So they have the classes during the week, and then on the weekends they get to come and practice. So I think you probably were sort of tutoring those that were coming for extra practice on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really good initiative that you guys have taken. Mm-hmm. I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
Helping, that's very unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some challenges during COVID, during this pandemic that you guys have faced?
Yeah, well, probably the biggest challenge we faced was financially, because we had to close our restaurant. We had to cancel our main fundraising. We had no volunteers. And so we had to figure out creative ways to bring in funds, which we did. We had a wonderful online campaign that really helped to bridge the gap. And our foundations continued to come through with grants. And so that was really, really good as well. We had to downsize a little bit on our staff, and that again was helpful. We kind of had to pivot and overcome some of those. Our restaurant still is not open. Our catering business has not done anything since last March, but we started a new social enterprise called Red Door Desserts. Now, if you see our logo, if you come to our campus, everything's about the red door. It's about the red door because that symbolizes the courage that it took for the women to come and step through that door into our lobby to change their life, and the hope that they will leave with a changed life. And so Red Door describes everything about St. John's. So Red Door Desserts is a subscription dessert program where you can order. At Christmas, we had 600 orders, just that's in our first month. So that was pretty amazing. And we're doing a monthly sort of club now that people can subscribe to. And so they're learning how to take orders, how to bake these desserts. Our plates manager is a pastry chef, so she's teaching them all about that, how to pack up orders, mail them, all of the things that go with mail order things. So that's what they're working on right now. The other challenge we had was that we have all these kids on our campus that can't go to school. So we had to figure out how to do distance learning on our campus. You can imagine that's a challenge when we have about 10 different grades going to 5 or 6 different schools. And so we had to hire a teacher to be on our campus to help coordinate the kids' connection with their classroom teachers and all that goes with that. So that really was a challenge because so many of our kids are behind in school already. They have short attention spans. Some of them have learning disabilities. We even have several kids that are on the autism spectrum, and so they need extra help. So some of our childcare staff actually sits next to them while they're doing their classwork as well. So that's been a really big challenge, but we've been able to figure out how to overcome both of those.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys were able to persevere and get through this.
Yes.
I had a question about, you mentioned a couple minutes ago about the schooling for the kids. Before COVID, how did you decide where they went to school, or how would they get their education?
So I'll start with the high school and junior high students first, because we're smack in the middle of Sac City schools, so that's the district. We tried to help the high school students stay in the school where they were already enrolled or where they had last been enrolled, so that there would be some continuity. So we had high school students, the district provides transportation. So whether that's a bus pass or light rail pass, they were able to get to their school, even if it was, kind of far away. I think the furthest away, I think we had a couple of students that went down to Elk Grove, but most of them were, probably within, 15, 20 minutes of us. Most of the elementary students all went to the same school, which was about 5-10 minute drive from campus, and a bus would come and pick all of them up. All the moms would walk out to the front with the kids like they were walking them to their bus stop, and the kids would get on the bus, and then the bus would bring them home in the afternoon. So it was very much like normal students. I know one of the things, and I think your fellow students might be empathetic towards this. So our kids that are doing distance learning, mostly it's the elementary kids in the classroom. And we made allowances for our junior high and high school students. We don't have too many of them right now, but we did. And at the end of last school year, and just think about how it would feel to be on Zoom with all of your schoolmates, and they're all sitting in their bedroom or their kitchen, and you're sitting in a shelter. So we tried to give them space that looked more normal, maybe in their own bedroom where they live, just so that they didn't have to have the stigma of, I live in a shelter with my mom.
So they didn't feel ashamed or
yeah. So exactly. Because I'll tell you, we've had some phenomenal high school kids in the last few years that played sports, that took AP classes, who were going to college. So just because they lived in a shelter with their mom didn't mean that their life was not going somewhere.
Of course, yeah, that's the perseverance and
Exactly.
determination that you can see in so many people
Right,
that
right.
just make you feel like you want to be a better person.
Exactly. Or not follow the same path that your mom did.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So that's all I had. Thank you so much for coming. We really enjoyed, and hopefully you all learned. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed and got inspired to help out in the community. I would love to hear your comments and suggestions. And if you have any other organizations that you would like me to interview, you can email me at knowyourcharity5@gmail.com. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all next time.